Okay, so I've been playing for a while. Seems like too long, this game, Galactic Destiny. Let me just... And I actually quit it midway. I do that with too many games. Mainly because I actually really like to play games. But I also want to give the view of the whole thing, if possible, to people who are interested in watching. I've got about maybe 20 people watching this thing, so there's not a lot of you out there who have been watching the whole thing through and would get that much more from it. But I do like to give a kind of informed opinion of the whole game, if I can. And in this case, I couldn't play it completely through. Partially because I think the game is broken. Now, I pulled out... It's clear that it would actually end. But the particular break I'm looking at is the simple fact that everything's completely unrestrained in terms of trade. Now, if we look at some games that allow completely unrestrained trade, there isn't a lot you can do in them. This one has a lot of open actions, but it has that light rules framework that allows you to kind of do things however you like. I can hand you a card when you like. I can throw influence in your direction. I can put it in your support. I can do whatever I like with it. In some cases that works okay, like look at Illuminati. I'm allowed to throw money in favor of another player. That's great. But I can't hand you cards, I can't hand you, additional groups that I've already conquered or whatever. In this you can trade anything and everything at all times. And that means that if somebody's about to win, it's the collective might of all the players, not just militarily, but able to stop them doing whatever they want to do to stop him. That kind of cooperative ability is pretty much the death to this game in any way being able to end. I like the idea of comparing it to Republic of Rome, which has this additional restriction that you can only trade stuff pretty much at one time. You can pass money at other times in various ways through mechanisms in the game, but you can't pass your basic hand of cards, and you certainly can't pass around offices and such. And in this, it looks like you can pretty much trade whatever you like. Property held, whatever. It's the kind of trading that's allowed in Monopoly, but there's more of a game here and less restrictions on the things that you can do with stuff. So in Monopoly, the trades are fairly reasonable. You can't prevent someone from winning who's the leader. You can't prevent every leader from winning just by ganging up on them in the way that you can in this. And I find that that led to a game which would end. It would end because eventually all the senators would have died and one person would have some advantage and other players would have no ability to play anything that required an action because their senators were all dead. That didn't strike me as the intention of the game. So, Republic of Rome manages that, but it manages it with a lot of detail, a lot of specific rules, times you can do X, Y, and Z. Everything's all very much spelled out. I wouldn't want to go that far in this game. Another game that I would compare it to is something like Cosmic Encounter, although it's nothing like Cosmic Encounter. But in terms of a game where there's all these complex things that can combine and prevent someone from winning, where people can work together to cause an effect, whatever, but usually they've got the target of their own victory just a few steps down the line of those card plays. In this you don't have that. You're just stopping the guy who's winning right now. And you might come to some sort of deal. How much money will it take? How much influence will it take to stop them right now? But you have not just your cash collectively, like you would in Illuminati or in Republic of Rome, but you also have the collective cards of every player. So what we saw at the very end was the red fleet shifting. The white fleet would have been able to shift because some other player had a card they could have handed to white, which wasn't necessarily of much use, but now it is in terms of stopping someone from winning. Yeah, that card may or may not be there, but it's just too hard a game to win because it's in everybody else's interest to stop you. And it's not like this is a matter of, oh, well, if I'm not winning, these Keshra or whatever they are, eventually they're going to get worse. They don't. It's very easy to beat them back. They're not like Republic of Rome's Carthaginians, who, if you just ignore them, are going to become this huge problem. It is really, really possible to handle the infestation when it's threatening the end of the game. Okay. So where else can we go with this? Well, why don't we take a look at the components? Now, I've already looked at these, but you've got your little fleets, little plastic pieces, very nice, whatever. Counters. Everything's actually very well done, except maybe the artwork. The board is beautiful. You will have seen that throughout the bids. Nice little player aid card for the rules summary. Good way to pass around. Gives most of the instructions. You kind of wish there were more if there were more players in the game. For me alone, it's great. You have these things. Each player has their own card. Now, these guys, for the party, these guys give you a lot of the brief player aid type information, not all of it. And some of what's in the player aid or in the rules is missing. You have to look here for like the prosecution table, for example. And there's stuff on the cards that doesn't show up anywhere else. And it's kind of useful. I found I had packaged with this the revised edition of the rules, which has some clarifications in it, most of which I was playing with anyway. It has some specific information on the different cards, etc., so that you have, a resource to look things up. It doesn't have a staple, which made a mess for me, but it's something someone else, the guy I bought it from, must have printed out. And it's definitely a better version of the rules in terms of completeness. Largely, I don't know how much it really helps. I was able to pretty much hit dead on with most of the things that came up that were kind of ambiguous. It's pretty obvious where you want to go. Here's the one that's not, and it's not fixed in here at all. And it's the fact that you can trade whenever you want. And it ruins the game. It really does. This game shows a lot of promise. It's very, very much to my taste in terms of where it's aiming at, right? It's this political struggle with an external foe, like a Republic of Rome situation. It's not cooperative, regardless of what some people will say. I mean, to me, a cooperative game is one where there is not this kind of competition. You may cooperate to handle things, but that's no different. Cooperating against the game system, to me, is no different than cooperating against another player who's in the lead. That's not a cooperative game. It's a game that has threats which you might have to work together for, but the main focus of this is very, very competitive. And the looseness of the rules, how few there really are, the flavor with assassinations and prosecutions, etc. And there's more assassination event and sabotage and all this, that, and the other. All these things kind of build up to create a very, very antagonistic type of experience in terms of, you're really competing with the other players directly. You're doing bad things to them, right? Well, all that's great, except for the fact that you're free to do bad things with everyone behind you when someone steps out for that victory. And that's the point. With Republic of Rome, you end up controlling them, but you controlled a whole lot more. With this thing, it is actually a very nice, fluid little system. You're directly competing with each other for control of things. There's a lot of interesting facets to it. It just needs that one additional control, and I think it becomes a much, much better game. At some point or another, I will look at it and think about what kind of control I want to put in place, because it seems to me that you should be able to trade anytime during the Senate phase if you're not the rebel. And then maybe some sort of legal exchange outside of that. I could see where the players could pass rules, laws of the Republic to help allow this. But here's the problem. If you let them pass a law of the Republic, it's in everybody's interest, when they're behind, when they're not in the threat to win, to pass a law that's very much like the base game. Hey, I can exchange resources with you at 1-for-1, or I can just give them to you, or whatever, without there being any issue. And so if you allow the light and very loose-flowing situation with the lawmaking, I think you'd end up with players actually passing this law when they're behind to prevent somebody else from winning, to be able to do the same thing they can do in the game. So it's not just this one piece. It's that maybe you have to specify that that can't be added to. But my immediate thought was, you could set up sort of an economy for making these transactions and everything. But if you allow the players to start playing with that, you're going to allow them to do exactly what it is that breaks the game. And if you allow them to, chances are they will, because it's in their best interest, if they're trying to win, not to let someone else win. Yeah, now looking at Cosmic Encounter as the other side of it, Cosmic Encounter, there's almost no trading. Everything's activated by the cards. It's like a magic game. You don't have this ability to just step outside and do whatever you like. It seems chaotic. It seems like there's lots of choices, but they're all very, very well specified. Here, the choices, the trades, etc., it's all left very open. And by doing it that way, they open the game up to just not working. And this is almost a fundamental thing in multiplayer games. You do not let players exchange stuff at will. You know, yeah, it works in Monopoly. Why does it? And it's not at will in Monopoly either. You can only do it between players' turns. This is more along the lines of, oh, he landed on my property there. If I trade 3 of my properties with houses on them for those and build houses, and let me use your money and I'll share the proceeds with the 3 of you. You know, it's that kind of level of fluidity that you have in this game. Yes, you can't cut all those deals and they won't be binding if you do. But you do have a strong incentive to bring somebody down. It's not just, I get their money and now I'm way ahead. Although that would be desirable in a Monopoly game if one player's well in the lead, to have houses and hotels spring up where there weren't even sets before due to trades in the midst of a die roll. That's the kind of environment you have with the rules the way they are, and it's not a good move. I've seen a couple of games, ones with much less mechanisms and much less trading ability and much less weight, be damaged heavily by that kind of environment. And this one, there's just no way. It's got too many little parts and too much looseness to allow you to make that kind of dealing, wheeling and dealing going on at any time with no restrictions at all. So, thinking those through and trying to figure out what the proper restrictions for this game should be, I honestly think that beyond the artwork, which there's a certain attractive element to it in a heavy metal sort of way, like I mentioned, but it's gotten a lot of negative responses over on Board Game Geek. But outside of that, that's really the only thing that's actually damaged in the game, really damaged. I have some problems with paying attention to all the cards, etc., but as I got used to them and started playing more and more, I started really getting into the flow of this one, and I really like how it ends up playing, except And maybe it only lasted long enough because of it being broken. But except for that one aspect just, it makes it no longer a fun game. It's, you know, people trash something like Kingmaker because it goes on forever, or Machiavelli or something, because you have this power to bring people down. But in this one, it's more than that. You cannot project the inability to bring someone down. It's not a matter of, oh, he's about to win, if we put force on him, he won't. It's a matter of, not only will we put force, but we can all gather our force exactly when we need it and use it exactly how it's best to stop it. And that just doesn't work. You know, I have not seen a fully designed game ever manage that. This one has failed. I've seen a few others that have failed. But I haven't seen a game that allows you that much liberality in making trades without some sort of fixed limit to end the game. There's no fixed limit to this. There's no time limit to this, for example. If there was a time limit, well, all bets are off there, right? Because it's no longer I have to stop everybody, but even if I do stop everybody, there's still a positional advantage to being in there. So that would be another option for fixing this, is to put a time limit in play. Unfortunately, the game as it's written, somebody just either played it with a group of people who didn't understand balance of power. So they, you know, didn't come up with that solution, or the need for a solution there. Or maybe it just wasn't play tested, but I can't imagine something. I mean, this seems well designed overall. Yes, the rules are loose. Yes, it's sort of up in the air. But, you know, I have the feeling maybe somebody ran these games. The playtesting wasn't done blind testing. Somebody ran the games and said they just were able to dominate the game so much, whether they were playing or not, that people didn't cut the deals that they could to stop someone from winning. I'm not sure. But I can't come up with a good reason why someone didn't just say, we can't produce this, it's broken. And I mean, the fix is not a hard one once you realize it's broken. It's not something that you say, oh my God, we've got to, you know, we've put so much investment in this, I can't resolve that. There's no fix for it. No, there's an easy fix. I mean, you put all exchanges in at one time in the turn, like Republic of Rome does, and you fixed it. Have you broken the game in some ways? You've taken something away from it. But there may be a way, with a little bit of thought, maybe a day or two's, to come up with a solution that would actually preserve a lot of that flavor, a lot of the looseness, without a big problem. For example, at the beginning of each phase, you can trade resources. Or maybe at the end of each phase, or whatever. End of the Galactic, you can trade anything you like. End of the Senate, you trade anything you like. End of the Intrigue, you can trade anything you like. That should allow quite a bit of flexibility, along with the fact that you can make trade-ins at 3-for-1 with the bank anyway, at any time, which I have no objection to. That just makes your resources filter into different things. Anyway, this is definitely something I'm intrigued by still. I don't think I've seen something like this that's excited me in the same way, just because of its looseness, you know, its openness to being tweaked and modified. This isn't like a CDG where, man, you can't touch that thing because all the parts are like carefully engineered to fit together, and you try to move one thing and it feels like you're going to break this intricate design. No, it's not like a Euro where everything feels like it's in balance in that sort of way. This is something that's a pure power politics type game, and not a great deal of, you know, detailed simulation, but the real flavor is there in a way that I haven't seen a game do that in quite a long time, actually. And I'm very impressed to see that there's still people who want to make things like this and don't want to make lots of mechanisms to kind of control how people do things. All right, anyway. I would actually suggest this, just that you need to tinker with it a bit.